The Mysterious Death of John Lennon. Welcome to Tricky Mickey. Please support the channel by subscribing, share, and like. At the end of the video, please leave a comment at the bottom. Spread the word Tricky Mickey is here. Share and like. Thank you. We're going to explore the mysterious death of John Lennon, who died on December the 8th, 1980 in New York City. He was murdered by Mark Chapman. We're going to find out why he did it. We're going to look at all the evidence and determine, was there something behind this. The biography of John Lennon. First, a little background story. John Lennon was born October the 9th, 1940 in Liverpool, England. He formed the Beatles in 1957 with Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, George Harrison. He left the Beatles in 1969-1970, released new album Double Fantasy. A few weeks later, he died at the age of 40 on December the 8th, 1980. But what are the circumstances behind his murder? First of all, he was part of the Beatles. We're looking at a picture in the early 1960s of the Beatles before they went on the Ed Sullivan Show, an American variety show that was very popular at that time and helped many young stars to fame and fortune. John Lennon, October the 9th, 1940 to December the 8th, 1980. Yes, John Lennon died December the 8th, 1980 at the age of 40 in front of his wife Yoko Ono when he was assassinated by Mark Chapman, who fired 4 shots into John Lennon's back, thus murdering him in front of his residency, the Dakota Hotel in New York City. But what was the reason behind Mark Chapman's assassination of John Lennon? The New York Dakota Hotel. First, there's something very ironic about the Dakota Hotel. It has a long history and controversy regarding many of its residents. Do you know that the film Rosemary's Baby was made at this Dakota Hotel? Many of the residents says that there is a long history of supernatural events at this hotel, that many sinister things such as suicides and death have occurred at this hotel. This probably created negative energy. You be the judge. Mark David Chapman, agent of the devil. Mark David Chapman. He was a fan of the Beatles, shot John Lennon. He was 57 years old, from Hawaii. He arrived in New York City 1 week before the murder, stayed in different YMCA, checked into the Sheraton Center Hotel in Manhattan, seen on Sunday at a hotel asking about John Lennon. On Monday, December the 8th at 5 p.m., he asked John Lennon for an autograph. Then he shot John Lennon to death. But why? What was his excuse? Oh, the devil made me do it. It wasn't me. It was the devil. He made me do it. My bad side made me do it. This was another statement that he made. It was published in the Daily News of New York City. John Lennon Slayer. My bad side made me do it. Please sign your Double Fantasy album. I am one of your most devoted fanatic. Yes, Mark Chapman, the killer, stalked John Lennon for 3 days. This is a picture taken of John Lennon by the paparazzi in New York City that showed Chapman right there next to John Lennon. I am guilty. He received life in prison. The Daily News reports Lennon's killer, I'm guilty, calls it God's will, faces 15 to life. He received life imprisonment because of insanity issues. New York State does not execute people. In front of Yoko Ono. John Lennon slain here. Ex-Beatle shot. The suspect, Chapman, was taken into custody. You see a picture here of Yoko Ono in grief, devastated over the death of her husband. John Lennon was killed in front of the Dakota Hotel. A very sinister, controversial hotel with a lot of backstory on it. I highly recommend that you look into this yourself. Dead on arrival. You're seeing here John Lennon's body being wheeled into the morgue of the New York City hospital. As you can see in this picture, he's already covered. No one can see him. And here's a picture of him in the morgue. The last picture of him, John Lennon, before he was cremated. Yoko Ono did not believe in burial or any of the traditions of the West of last rites. The devastating news that went around the world. We're looking at a picture of people protesting outside in New York City, asking why. Why did this have to happen? Naturally, anti-gun activists took to the street saying, see, this is America and its gun fanaticism. The issue is not guns. The issue is mental illness. Mark Chapman was under the delusion that he was John Lennon and that he had to kill John Lennon in order to take him over. No funeral for John Lennon. John Lennon's death came suddenly and all too soon. On December the 8th, 1980, Lennon was viciously shot 4 times in the back by Mark David Chapman. Lennon had autographed a copy of the Double Fantasy album for him earlier that night. At the emergency room, Lennon was pronounced dead on arrival. The next day, Yoko Ono issued a statement. There is no funeral for John Lennon. Loved and prayed for the human race. Please pray the same for him. Love, Yoko and Sean. John Lennon will be ever loved, ever respected, and never forgotten. Early childhood. The early childhood of John Lennon, who grew up in a working class neighborhood of Liverpool, was not very, very good. He had an absentee father. His mother had to work very hard to support him. He was primarily raised by his maternal grandmother in the Liverpool area, where he met Paul McCartney and later George Harrison and Ringo Starr. Early schooling. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. Yes, John Lennon was very creative, as an artist would be. But according to his own also pronouncement, he was not really good at schooling because he felt it was a waste of time. First marriage. John Lennon's first marriage. Lennon's marriage. Lennon married Cynthia Powell in August 1962. The couple had one son together. Julian, who was named after Lennon's mother, Cynthia, was forced to keep a very low profile during Beatlemania. She and Lennon divorced in 1968. He remarried the following year on March 20th, 1969 to Yoko Ono. Early adulthood of John Lennon. In college, Lennon met his future wife, Cynthia Powell, left. They married on August 23rd, 1962, and their son Julian was born April the 8th, 1963. Though they were happily married for years, it soon became a rocky relationship. Cynthia Lennon had become aware of Lennon's infidelities, but cites his increasing drug use for their growing apart. Cynthia became aware of John and Yoko and believed that they were meant to be together. The Illuminati did it. Here's one theory of why John Lennon died. John Lennon exposes the Illuminati. Fact or fiction? John Lennon, a musician and artist of the Beatles, was part of the Illuminati music industry. You do not become successful in the music industry unless you sign a contract with them and basically sell your soul for riches and fame and earthly power. I think our society is run by insane people for insane objective. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends. I think they're all insane, but I am liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what is insane about it. Don't you agree? Basically, John Lennon was warning people that the Illuminati are real, and this is possibly a theory of why he was assassinated. Anti-Americanism of John Lennon. Hated America, threw a fit when he got deported. John Lennon did not really like America. He loved living in America because it gave him a tax haven to protect his wealth. taxes in Europe are very high. So he basically was using America like a whore, using it for his benefit, but not really liking it. There was a lot of controversy regarding the Vietnam War and America's foreign policy. This contributed to his hatred of America. President Nixon threw John Lennon out of the United States of America. In the early 1970, when President Nixon was in office and he was fighting the Vietnam War, John Lennon, a political activist who was against the war, wanted to campaign and organize a whole bunch of activists to demonstrate against Nixon's presidency and his policies in order to help defeat him and the Republicans of that time so that they wouldn't continue this war. This viewpoint was very simplistic, considering that it was the Democratic Party under President Kennedy and President LBJ Johnson who got us in this quagmire of the Vietnam War. This is one of the reasons why Nixon took it upon himself to have John Lennon deported because of prior drug use in Great Britain. Under American law, if you have a felony on your record, your green card can be taken away from you, and your right to stay in this country, even on a work permit, will be denied. This was the whole controversy. Quotes of John Lennon. John Lennon's quotes. We're more popular than Jesus now. If everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there will be peace. We knew our honeymoon was going to be public anyway, so we decided to use it to make a statement. I'm cynical about society, politics, newspapers, government, but I'm not cynical about life, love, goodness, and death. Understand that John Lennon was a hippie from the hippie era, so his pronouncement was a manifestation of the values of that time. Am I a dreamer? Am I a dreamer? You may say I'm a dreamer. The American dream is a Zionist nightmare. Wake up, but I'm not the one asleep. He's telling us that we're all asleep because we don't see the Illuminati in plain sight. This kind of warning, as I stated earlier, was probably one of the conspiracy theory of why the Illuminati had John Lennon assassinated. John Lennon was a threat to the control of the music industry by the Illuminati. Why no bodyguard? Here's another conspiracy theory regarding the bodyguards. John Lennon died 35 years ago, and still questions remain, such as why were his bodyguards missing at the time he was assassinated, when they would have normally been there. Again and again, the security guards were withdrawn. But why? It wasn't John Lennon's idea. Apparently they called in sick on that day, according to one of the theories, and they weren't there to protect him. Why did the Beatles say about the death of John Lennon? We're looking at a picture when the Beatles were together. This picture was taken and John Lennon is seen on the ground, apparently dead, and the remaining Beatles are over him, trying to revive him. But this picture did not appear on any of the music album covers. Why was this picture taken? What was the intent of this? Did he predict his own death in the future? George Harrison. What did George Harrison say about John Lennon's death? As far as I'm concerned, there won't be a Beatles reunion as long as John Lennon remains dead. Why did George Harrison make this flippant remark? Well, George Harrison was not necessarily trying to be funny. He was probably trying to deflect the media's asking a very stupid question about a Beatles reunion regarding the remaining Beatles members. George Harrison was very devoted to and got along very well with John Lennon. What about Paul McCartney? What did Paul McCartney say? The thing you must remember is that I'm the #1 John Lennon fan. I loved him to this day and always did love him. Paul McCartney. One of the reasons Paul McCartney left the Beatles was because he couldn't get along well with Yoko Ono, because she was brought into the music session and the other Beatles did not bring their girlfriends or wives to the rehearsals. Ringo Starr. What did Ringo Starr say? Ringo Starr was vacationing in the Bahamas when he heard that John Lennon was assassinated. He and his family immediately got on a private jet that they commissioned, and they flew to New York City. There, they consoled Yoko Ono, and Yoko Ono said, "You cannot imagine how devastated I am. No one can. Imagine. No matter what you think of John Lennon, he was a very creative artist. Some people speculate that the Beatles sold their soul to Satan. This is one of the requirements when you're part of the Illuminati and the music industry, that you sign a contract and that you sell your soul to the devil for richness and earthly fame and glory and power, and that this contract was only going to last for 20 years. And then John Lennon died. We're bigger than Jesus Christ. Here's the controversy about John Lennon. John Lennon and Jesus, and the quote that was heard around the world: Christianity will go, it will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right, and I will be proven right. We're more popular than Jesus now, and I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity. Jesus was all right, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruined it for me. John Lennon was an atheist, and Judgment Day came for John Lennon. Oops, there's a hell below us. Those people who are atheists, pagans, and openly anti-Christian, who don't understand that we're all under God's power, that we're all living soul, and that the breath we take is a gift from God. This is the fact of reality. We did not come into existence by accident. We were designed and created by the Lord God to worship him. John Lennon did not understand this, and it was too late for him. Please support our channel by subscribing to Tricky Mickey. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel. I thoroughly enjoy bringing you all of these videos for your edification. I give you the facts, evidence, details, proof. I want you to think for yourself, analyze all the information I gave you, and you draw your own conclusion. Do you believe that there was a conspiracy to assassinate John Lennon? Was this conspiracy brought up by the contract that he and the Beatles signed when they were in their early 20s? And that the contract was called due by Satan himself? That Mark Chapman, an agent of the devil, was the assassin who put an end to John Lennon's life. Thank you for listening and watching. This is Tricky Mickey. Until next time, thank you and take care of yourself. Bye.